started my Etsy shop around 3 months ago, and here are 10 things that I've learned so far selling on Etsy. So 10 months ago, I decided to try and diversify my income. What I wanted to do is not only rely on Amazon KDP, but try and start a successful Etsy shop as well. In 2024, I think it's really important to try and have multiple income streams so that you're not relying on just one marketplace. Now, this has been a little bit harder than it seems because it does take a lot of time and effort to build up an Etsy shop, but I've learned some things along the way. So let's go into 10 things that I've learned so far in my Etsy journey. Number 1 is the importance of consistent uploads, especially when you first start your shop. What I found is when I first started and I was uploading every day, that these new listings were ranking quite well organically. I think it's to do with the Etsy algorithm coming back to your shop because it knows to expect consistent uploads. So if you can, make sure that at least for the first couple of weeks, you're uploading consistently to let Etsy know to come back and check your shop. Tip number 2 is the importance of keyword research. Just like on Amazon, there's no point in creating products if no one's searching for them or there's no demand. So what is the best way to check this on Etsy? It's to use a tool called Everbee. So my Etsy shop sells digital products only just because they're easy to supply and I don't have to worry about shipping, etc. But recently I started focusing on book covers. And so what Everbee does is a plugin on your internet browser, and so when you start typing in the search bar, it gives you suggestions and it lets you know how many estimated searches a month that search term is generating. So if we have a look here, for example, in the Etsy search bar, I have looked at book cover design and it has an estimated 260 monthly searches. So that's showing there's at least some interest with book design on Etsy. It's not maybe your usual platform that you'd go to for book covers, but it's not overly saturated either. So if we have a look at the search results, for example, mine here is number 3, and then these 3 here as well are also mine. So if people are searching for that search term, there's every chance they'll find a book cover that I've created and then go through to purchase it. What you can then do with Etsy, which I quite like to do, is go into the keyword research tool. And that way you can try and find some unique and slightly more niche down keywords to try and rank for. So on this one, I'm just looking at book covers in the keyword research tool, and I've sorted it by the estimated amount of searches per month. So at the top, you can see book covers has an estimated 1,700 searches a month, but it's also got quite a lot of competition. But if we scroll down, we can see some other types of covers to try and go for. So you've got things like notebook covers, custom book covers here, has 911 estimated searches a month. And if we look for pre-made book covers as well, we can see what people are searching for within the pre-made category. So the pre-made category on Etsy is quite small, but there are some searches per month. The one that sticks out to me here is the ebook pre-made book cover, as well as things like a fantasy romance book cover, etc. So if I was looking into the genres to create my book covers for, it would be those 2. I'd start with the fantasy romance and the romance. Tip number 3 is to look at what your competitors are doing. So if we come onto Etsy and search for pre-made book cover, because that's mostly what I'm creating at the moment, we can see here what our competitors are doing. So out of the top 8, I'm actually ranking for 5 of those, which is incredible. But you can see here my competition are priced cheaper than me, and they also have more reviews. So that's something that I need to consider because I'm £10 more expensive than these 2 and £20 more expensive than the first one. But saying that, I don't know if I'm a bit biased, but I do think my covers are maybe slightly better than those ones. But if we click on the first pre-made book cover here, we can see what they've included in the images. So they've got information here on kind of like what you get, sample text, how it works, and they've got it mocked up as well. So on ours, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are at least doing the same, or if not, doing something better than what the competition is doing. Tip number 4 is to price effectively. Just like we saw there, I'm probably priced a little bit too high against my competition, and that's probably why I've not sold that many pre-made book covers in the past month. The most recent sale that I got was when I was running a 40% off sale. That would bring it down to around the same sort of price as my competitors, and that again shows the importance of pricing effectively. Now, however you go about pricing is completely up to you. There are some pre-made book covers on Etsy that sell for like £300. So it's not necessarily always about being the cheapest, but you also don't want to price yourself out of the market either. Tip number 5 is to create a decent amount of products. Think about it, right? You just saw recently that when you were searching for pre-made book covers, 5 of the top 8 results were mine. And that's because I've made a decent amount of products. So I've got every chance of more products ranking for keywords. That gives people more entry points to my shop on Etsy. And therefore, even if they don't find a product that they're looking for, they might think, oh, that looks nice, I'll click on it, and then they'll go through to my shop. So the more products you have, the more chance you have of being discovered on Etsy, which is absolutely key to getting sales. Tip number 6 is to try Etsy ads, but don't overspend. I've found so far in my first few months on Etsy that generally Etsy ads weren't profitable for me. I've used them to try and rank some of my pre-made book covers for keywords, which as you can see has worked. But my general advice with Etsy ads would be to use it on high margin products that are evergreen and have a pretty high demand. My pre-made book covers have quite a low demand, and therefore I don't really think it's worthwhile using ads on my book covers because they're ranking organically anyway, and there's not that high a demand as we saw with the Everbee tool. If you're creating something that is in high demand, you're probably going to need ads to reach your buyers. Tip number 7 is to template your images. Going back to the search results here, the last one, the fantasy book cover, was before I did my templates and I was creating a unique image for every product that I was uploading, and that took time. But what I ended up doing is getting a background that I was happy with, and then I started templating out all of my images. I have 3 images for every upload. I have my hero image, the information on how it works, as well as it mocked up, and then also a need anything else section. And so whenever I create a new book cover, I just drop it into this template and export those 3 images. That saves me time, saves me effort, and I think it also makes the shop look consistent and quite nice as well. Tip number 8 is on Etsy, do not expect overnight success. In my next video, I'm going to go through how much I made on Etsy in my first few months, but a spoiler is it's not much money. I think you can kind of think of this like you're starting any other business. You're not suddenly going to get rich overnight. You need to put in the time, the effort, you need to make good products, you need to market yourself, and all of that stuff is going to take time. So if you're starting an Etsy shop in 2024, my advice to you would be to make sure you're setting yourself expectations. You might make a few sales here or there, or maybe you might tap into a hot niche and get more sales, but just keep at it. And I think it's a bit more likely that you're going to build slowly, but then hopefully you'll get to a point where you are making some sort of consistent income each month. Now, tip number 9 is something I touched upon, and that is utilizing Etsy's sales. So if we come onto my Etsy dashboard, you've got this marketing tab on the left-hand side, and then you can click on the sales and discounts. So on here, all you need to do is click on run a sale, and you can select how much percentage off you want to run. So I'm going to test a 30% off sale on the whole of my shop, and it's going to run from today until the end of the month. You need to put a sale name in just for your reference. So I'll put January 30 and any terms and conditions. And that's how easy it is to run a sale. Obviously, if you only want to select certain products to run a sale on, you just select them when you're given the option. But what I have found so far is that people tend to buy products when they're on sale. That might be because I'm priced a little too high, or it might just be the effectiveness of seeing that discount on your products. So if we search pre-made book covers, our book covers are no longer more expensive than the competitors. In fact, they're maybe a little bit cheaper. And so if people are finding these, they might think, oh, what a great deal, let's buy one of those. So using sales on Etsy, I think is absolutely fantastic, and I would highly recommend it. And my 10th and final tip on Etsy is to make sure you're being responsive to the messages that you receive. A lot of times I found people reaching out to me via DMs about a product, and if I hadn't have been nice and talked to them and answered any questions, I don't think I would have got a sale. So yes, it can take a little bit of manual time to respond to people, but you're also building that relationship with that buyer. I've not really seen it yet because I'm still quite early in my Etsy shop journey, but what I hope to happen is if you're building those relationships with your buyers is that they will come back because they've spoken to you, they like you, they've liked your products, and then hopefully they'll buy more products in the future as well. So I think it's a pretty general tip in the whole of your marketing journey whatsoever is make sure you're responding to your customers and make sure you're being nice and answering any questions that they have. Okay, so those are the 10 things that I've discovered so far on Etsy. But I also want to hear from you. Drop your comments below with any tips and tricks that you've learned, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.